Hello, and welcome to Expedition 33. So this will be a nice in-depth look at Expedition 33 and some of its gameplay elements and giving it a bit of a review, and I'll get straight on into it. And to prevent spoilers though, I'll just give it a little pause. And here we are on the world map. So, Expedition 33, simply put, yeah, nice and simple, it is a turn-based party RPG. I think people call them different names, like, I think Team Tactics or Party RPG or things like that. But yeah, it's basically you take turns in fighting. It's not grid-based or anything, so don't think, Baldur's Gate or anything. It's more like old Final Fantasy games. And we're gonna just go through the level a bit here, just go through the world. I will say one thing as well, the world is extremely pretty. And we're gonna head over to, let me think, where is it now? There should be some mountains up here that should give us some nice combat encounters, just to show off some of the mechanics. And we'll get into kind of discussing the things that play in the combat there. But while we're on the way, again, just really got to hand it to the game on just how good it looks. I mean, it really is a fantastic title in terms of like its visuals and its art style. It's very distinctive. A lot of games come out on the Unreal Engine, and have done especially lately, where they look a bit sort of generic and similar to each other, but I would say that this manages to, and I think it's definitely because of this very heavy, sort of like, this very heavy use of its art style. It's, I'm trying to think of a word for it, but yeah, it's very unique. And the way it paints, I know the word, surreal. It's quite a surreal art style, because of the setting and the way everything is in the game. Everything's very, it's all kind of like there's bits of stuff floating up in the air. There's smashed, like there were like floating train wreckages, and there's ice everywhere. So obviously this is like an ice area. It's actually, and I've chosen this because it's a secondary area in the game, so you do a side objective here, so there's no story things here, and the goal is to kind of like climb the mountain to face the boss at the top, which I have done. And you're joining me after about 60 or so hours of gameplay, and as you can see, because it does say here, New Game Plus, I have beaten the game at this point. The game works very much like Dark Souls. When we reach these flags, we can have a rest. That gets everyone back to full health, and then we can head over and get into some combat, and I can kind of talk more about the combat, but the visuals as well. It's not just in the environments and things. It's also in the enemies and things themselves. Like we've got here like these weird mannequins with clothes, like bits of cloth draped over them, and they're like half ice, half fire, and they'll swap their attack styles out between things. I'm wondering here why I've only got one character available. I think something has gone wrong here, hang on. And yeah, I had forgotten to add some party members back into my party. I'd kind of left them out. I think it was for the boss fight. I'd stacked someone up to fight solo for something. Again, it's been a little while since I've played, so I've been making my way through Doom in the meantime. But yeah, we'll get into some combat. We can do this little attack on them, and if we land it before the combat, we get to make the first. We get the first turn, so we'll make the first move here.
Let's carve a path.
So combat, it's kind of an initiative system where the faster your speed stat, the earlier you'll be able to go in combat. If your speed is high enough compared to the enemy, you can eventually end up taking multiple turns, which is nice. So it doesn't get to a point where speed is no longer something you want to invest in. You can keep doing so to get to the point where you can take additional turns, which is quite nice. We're going to get started with... Now, you can always use a shot, and all this gets covered in the basic tutorial, but we can take some basic hits here at them. And then if we want, we can do an attack. Then we could use an item or a skill. My character here has a unique sword that allows him to, as long as he does a basic attack, he'll get a second turn. He can get a third turn though. So that's something to think about. And I think I'm just going to turn it down a bit as well, a bit more than it already is. It's already quite low, but just noticing some of the sound effects there going a bit high on my audio bars. Right. Let's try doing a perfect break. Why not? We'll do that. Hit the same target again. We do a little quick time event. And we managed to stun that enemy. So here, with Mael, we're going to... Oh yeah, so these are fire enemies, and Mael is currently set up to do fire damage. So we don't actually want her to be doing any attacking. We'll attack an enemy that's on high health, so that way it's not going to absorb any health from her. And we'll have to try and finish it off with the loon here. Right. We have enough to do... We can try elemental trick, I guess.
Elements converge.
And then you do these quick time events where obviously we parry things away. And you can kind of get an idea of how the combat works. If we get all of them, we do manage to do a counter attack, and as you can see, the counters are very powerful. So much so that they're more powerful than your regular abilities. A lot of Mael's abilities here are also all fire based, so this could be a problem for us. It looks like this one in the middle has swapped elements, because these are like fire and ice monsters. So if we hit the one in the middle, as you can see, their arm and everything on them is now blue and icy. We should actually be able to maybe hit these now. So they're now on fire. Mael sets things on fire when she shoots them, or at least that's how I spec her out. And I hit the wrong target. I targeted the wrong character. Not great. And they've now swapped stance. So a bit of a mistake there. As you can see though, when we don't manage to parry an attack, we're losing like 1,000 odd damage per turn. Well, per hit actually. Oh dear. Her counter attack healed it, of course. Right. Let's see if we can get a hit on this one, and we will use our Mayhem skill, which requires us to have all of our elements stored up on the right there, where it says stains. We've got all those icons filled now. And we can hit them quite hard, though some of those healed, unfortunately for us. Let's go with... We'll do a lightning strike on this one.
You're outmatched.
And then guy here, he's got S tier perfection now because he's hit them a few times. We'll just start with an attack and that's probably going to do it, yeah. So that gives you an idea about the combat. So I'll kind of just run through everything. So each character, so as we saw, like Mael here has stances. Lunavere collects these elemental stains when she attacks enemies, and then when she's built those up she can unleash them for bonus damage. The types of elemental damage she gets from the types of elemental stains she gets depends on the abilities she uses, and the damage she deals when she hits people with them depends on the element she's hitting them with. So obviously if she gets a fire element stain, she then uses it to do fire damage, and Verso here, as long as he keeps hitting things and avoiding damage, builds up his perfection combo meter, as if it's like a spectacle fighter, and he does more damage based on that, and certain skills require him to be at a certain level in order to use certain abilities. And so you can kind of see that the combat, I mean, I'm trying to think how best to explain it. I think the way I would explain it is the combat isn't great. A lot of people have been saying in various reviews and things that the combat is, oh my god, it's absolutely fantastic, it's amazing, you need to try the combat, it's so good. I would say that the combat is fine, but it's kind of like, how would I put it? They're trying to, like, the combat is bad and they've tacked lots of things onto it in an attempt to fix the problem. The problem is this type of combat. This style of combat, at least I think, is just inherently not very good, right? And it has all the typical issues that this type of combat has. Everyone's just kind of stood there waiting on their turns, it looks kind of silly and that. And not only that, but you don't feel as involved with it. I think it would be much better with, you know, action combat, but it's fine. And it has all the problems where, you know, if I want to use an item to revive an ally, well, it's then gonna take my turn to use that. If I want to use a skill or something, that takes up my turn. I can't use a skill then a regular attack or anything. It's all, I mean, I'm not so bothered about the skills ending your turn, that's fair enough because it's like a special attack. But things like item usage, I never think really should end your turn. And to just kind of hit the point home here, I would say, because it's a similar game that did this sort of thing would be something like Pokemon. I think we can all agree that the combat in Pal World, where you actually ride around with your Pokemon or even on your Pokemon and just blast everything with their abilities or with guns and things and other weapons, is superior to the classic Pokemon combat that has long since become stale. They've added a lot of extra flash to this, like the cool animations. They've tried to tack on extra mechanics, so you've got lots of different, I mean, as you saw then when I attacked them, like a million bits of text comes up on the side showing all the different skills that I've got at this point, all triggering, like all the different passive skills that I've got. And we'll get into skills in a moment. But yeah, it has that, and then there's the actual parrying and dodging systems. So we'll end my turn here. I'll quickly go about, let's see if we can just get onto the enemy turn here. And as you can see, so we've got gradient, parry, dodge and jump in the bottom left, right? So there's one type of parry for parrying regular attacks. There's a special type of parry for dodging special attacks. There's a jump that you have to do when you see a jump icon appear. And then there's just a dodge. The dodge is easier to do than the parry, but it doesn't come with the reward of being able to do a counter attack if you manage to parry every attack. The problem then is that the AI... I would split the attacks into 3 distinct categories. There's the easy to dodge category, which we'll probably see a lot on display a lot here. I don't think these enemies, if I remember right, don't have particularly difficult to dodge attacks. So we should be fine against most of these. Then we'll get Luna here, and she's going to... I guess we can attack one of these. Probably the dance is the most dangerous. And then if we... yeah, actually we'll just keep shooting at her, because that builds up these stains. I think it's her weapon ability gives her a random stain on firing. So the way I've spec'd her out is that she will spend a turn generating stains like this, and then she'll use Mayhem or Elemental Genesis if we're lucky, and use that to basically deal massive damage, and that's kind of how I've spec'd her out to play. And she's also got a lot of healing abilities as well. Yeah, let's keep going after this dancer in the middle, doing quite a bit of damage. And this is one of the attacks that's easier, I say as I get hit, easier to dodge. It's got a little, like you see the little sort of like pop in the air, and you hear that noise. So you kind of see the little mini explosion in the air, the little noise that you hear, the noise that plays. And as long as you press the parry within the window there, you will parry the attack. It's fairly easy. It's only a 3-hit combo. Nice and simple. The other enemies here do something similar. These fall within the category of attacks that I would say are easy to dodge and easy to parry. Then there's the ones that are a bit trickier. They get to like 3 or 4 hit combos. They might have a feint in there. The first and second attack might have a gap between, but then there might be a longer gap between the second and third with a slight feinting or something on those lines. And they're the ones that tend to throw you off. Let's see if we can... This is going to be a big attack, so we'll do it on the one with the most health. I didn't quite land those, so it won't be doing as much damage as it could do, but it's still good.
Take cover.
Right. So we can do maybe a Mayhem here, and that should probably finish these off. This one's got the most health, so why not? Right, he's gone. But as you can see, so we've taken a bit of a hit, and if you do end up missing parries and again like jumps and other things, you can end up getting to this point where, simply put, yeah, you very quickly lose your health. I found that as you get toward the end game, I would say someone with about 3,000 health is basically a glass cannon. Around 4,000 to 5,000 health seems to be reasonable at this part of the game. Again, this is like at the end of the game. That seems to be quite reasonable and will at least give you probably 3 or 4 hits before an enemy just outright absolutely kills you. And going up towards 6,000 and 7,000 is quite tanky. Anyway, we're in Virtuo stance here, so our next attack's going to deal plus 200% damage, and as you use your skill points on your skills, once you've used I think 20 in a single combat, you can see at the bottom there we've got a gradient charge that gives us access to a special attack. So we can now hit one of these. Our sword is of the fire element, and she's in fire mode at the moment, so we should probably focus on this guy.
You can't escape.
You can't hold on to these charges either, so I can't go into my next combat with one or anything, so you are encouraged to use them now.
Time to hit big.
We are going to struggle. Okay, we can use the homage skill here, and that should finish her off.
For good stuff.
We did hit all those there. And she's healed herself because she's killed an enemy. I think that's just an ability I've tagged on to her. Right, and we're now ready to maybe use a good skill here.
Break.
There we go. And he's insta-killed them. I think he crit. So, yeah. But, as you can see, as you go through, so we've got a lot of party members, you do pick up more people as you go. Without getting too much into it, I don't want to put any spoilers out there, but basically you do have several party members, and throughout the game, I will put this out there as well, just cool, like absolutely top-notch story with this. Now just for a moment, like the story of the game, as well as all the visuals here, the story is absolutely fantastic. I'll see if we can get somewhere where we've got a bit of light on us here. Right. But yeah. The story is top notch, right? There's a lot of plot twists, so lots of twists and turns. It keeps you on your toes. The stuff you end up finding out towards the end that kind of ties everything together definitely opens it up for more stories like within this world. Like very much, it doesn't just open up to it, blows the bloody doors off for it, and you could easily do lots of follow-ups to this, either with keeping the characters or with new ones in this world or others. But again, if you do play through it and you get toward the end, you'll understand as to why that is. But again, without getting into too much in terms of spoilers, because I really don't want to spoil anything, it's very good, the story. It's definitely worth your time. But I will definitely big up the work done on that. It's very good. That said, as I was saying, it's not just that, of course, it's also that it's, again, beautiful, not just from a, hey look, it's in 4K with ray tracing perspective as well. It's just a really, like, very, as I say, like a surreal and distinct looking game. And it manages to do it in Unreal without making everything just look like, you know, sort of brown and grey photorealistic slop. I mean, I will say, Unreal Engine, it's been getting a lot of stick for that. I don't think it's the engine's fault, nor is it really the developers. It's just a lot of indie games have had access to the engine now, and we're seeing a lot of indie games coming out that look realistic because basically they've gone on and they've bought a load of like photogrammetry assets and things, and so they'll all have that kind of similar sort of realistic look to them, but they've not necessarily got like the experience and budget to make it pop like this does. And I'll get on to the budget and constraints of it in a while. For now, so that kind of gives you an idea of like some of the enemies that you might face. I keep pressing what's normally the sprint button in other games, but it's on the right trigger for some reason. Swapping what character you're currently playing as while you traverse the world is on the the left stick for some reason. But anyway, we'll go back to the continent, and I'm sure I can find something a bit more difficult that we can kind of chip our teeth on here, and that'll kind of show us a more difficult combat. And while we're in the open world, so what you find as you go through the game is you gain different ways to traverse. So you don't start being able to fly. At the beginning you can only walk, and you don't even have SK here to mount onto the back of. So it's just your characters walking along. And as a result, there's a lot of areas that you can see but you can't get to. It's a bit Metroidvania-esque. As you get a bit further into the game, you lose the... you kind of not lose, you gain the ability to do different things. So for example, you eventually can swim. So you start being able to walk, then you can mount SK. SK, when you first get him, can smash through certain objects on the map. So the map opens up a little bit more. Areas that were previously inaccessible, suddenly you can get to. Then you get to be able to swim, and eventually you can straight up fly. And you can imagine that that definitely... It definitely opens things up a lot more. And I really like as well how the map opens up like this, because things that like crazy cool stuff in the distance, like, I mean, you can tell it's a very French game, but yeah, the Eiffel Tower over there. Like, that's just something off in the distance. And no, when you get toward the end of the game, you can fly high in the clouds above everything, look back and be like, oh, that's where I started, that's where we came out at the beginning of the game, and that's the old city that you start the game at. And you can revisit places, you can go there when you get to the end. And the things in the distance that were like, oh my god, how do we even get over there? You can just fly over to. So I do like how the map opens up like that, the overworld map. Very, very well done. But it does create this bit of a problem where, so sometimes you'll fight enemies that are obviously way too difficult, like blatantly too difficult for you. I'm trying to think where I could find one, because even at the end of the game there are still some areas like this. Trying to think, where would one be? Open map, there's the button. You know what, a lot of these workshop areas that are on the map are marked as dangerous. I'll try going over to one of them. That should just show you what I mean. Of course, I've got to find the thing, but this does kind of also get into what I'm getting at as well here, where basically, is that it there? I think that is it there. This is probably an area that's, yeah. So as you can see, it says danger. So even though I'm at the end of the game and everyone in my party is over level 60, it's telling me that that's a dangerous area. And so sometimes you unlock, you know, oh, I've got the ability to swim back now and I can get to this area, and it's still locked behind just this like level gate essentially. I can go in there, but I will definitely die. Everything there will probably one-tap me if it hits me. And it's true of a lot of areas that have danger written on them. The other annoying thing is that not only are these areas around, but again, usually the way that this works is a game you'll go to somewhere at the beginning of the game and it'll say something like, well, there's two ways of doing this. Either you will get the thing that allows you to reach that place when it's when you're the appropriate level to be able to do it. So the designers would go, okay, by the time you get the ability to go through the water and swim, we expect you to be level, I don't know, we expect you to be level 30 or whatever. And so an area like this here will make sure that that is a level 30 area. Yeah? Because you have to swim to it. Yeah, and you'd think that, okay, and then, so when I get the ability to get to it, I can go through it, and it'll be appropriately leveled. No, it can still be way over leveled for you. The other way would be to just, instead of it saying danger, just be like recommended level, and it just tell you. It does not. It does neither. And so then you get this other problem where I've beaten the game and I'm thinking, where shall I go? What shall I do next? Now that I've beaten the game, maybe I want to perfect it, maybe I want to get all the items or something. Games that have like these collectathon type things usually will have something that's like, okay, we will maybe show on the map, we'll show if you've got everything in that area. Yeah, we'll have a little thing, you hover over it, and a little like a little box will appear saying you have found 10 out of the 12 collectibles. Or, oh, I'm going to hover over this one. Oh, the recommended level for this area is level 70. Make sure you're there before you go back to it. None of that is there, and so it's a bit difficult to kind of navigate the map, especially at the end of the game. And especially when some of these are like higher up in the sky and some are lower, and so finding your way back and being like, okay, I need to find all the things that I'm missing, I need to make sure that I've got all the items, I want to go and get the 100% maybe I want to go back to all the areas that were too dangerous before and redo them or something like that. Nope. It will be very difficult for you to do that because the game just kind of doesn't, it hasn't, oh, well, hang on, right, got rid of that. I do love it when my printer drivers decide to just interrupt the game in the middle of it for some random reason. No need for them to do that. Right, as I was saying, so yeah, it is, as I say, it's very much a case of it's just difficult to kind of, once you've beaten everything, go back and re-navigate it all and be trying to find areas that you wish to go back to maybe. So it's just made more difficult in doing that. I'll give you a bit of a what's it now? Give you a bit of a demonstration of some more difficult combat. So this is a boss that you find sort of midway through the game, and you absolutely cannot take him on.
Bring it on.
So you can see his hit me is take like a lot, just a bunch of health off. And so this is kind of again more of an enemy that I think if I really tried at this point in the game, I probably could defeat them. But this would take several attempts most likely. I'll just point out as well, the music in the game, fantastic as well. Just a lot of the creative elements in the game are really good.
Bring it on.
Hey, a good hit. Right. So since we've done all those parries and dodges, we can now build up some stains, as we can see there on the right. We can get a bunch of random stains. And activate Mayhem, which should hopefully do a decent bit of damage. As you can see, like we've done 83 and a bit thousand damage to him. And yeah, So I mentioned some enemies, they'll hit you with attacks that straight up are absolute BS. So sometimes they're nice and easy, sometimes they're not too bad, sometimes like that it's absolutely ridiculous. And there'll be several attacks, they'll be fast, there'll be different timings between them, they might do a feint. And not only that, but you have this problem where you feel like you're playing a bit like Dance Dance Revolution with the controller. It's like you're playing Guitar Hero, and the attacks, there's almost like a rhythm to them. And if you miss one, like I missed the first one there, you tend to miss the follow-ups. And just as like when you're playing Guitar Hero back in the day, you would miss one of the notes, and it kind of throws you for 2 or 3 afterwards. The exact same problem happens here. It's very common for that to happen, I've found. We're going to try and take this turn to, let's see, we'll do Swift Stride to get into Virtuo stance here, and then we'll follow up with the Homage skill next turn.
Ready to strike.
Here we're going to do a basic attack, because him doing a basic attack heals him and allows him to take a second turn, which we're then going to use an ability for. The problem is, this is when I get back into my gripe about just all of these games making it so that an item uses up your turn. So I'm going to take a turn to revive my dead ally here. They're going to come back, but then this guy does area attacks, so he's probably going to kill someone else again next turn if I don't manage to block or, well, to dodge or parry all of his attacks. So we're going to do it.
You can do better.
But this has already put us on the back foot. There's a feint, there's... Alright, so he's not doing it. I think he does it on his next attack. Anyway, we're going to go big damage here. Big hit there. He gets 2 attacks now.
Not impressed.
And we got the parry on that one. Hey.
Let us stay then.
Now, one of our other characters is a little bit worse for wear. I think we only need the healing light here. Though if we did revitalize, oh wait, no, we'll heal her because Loon here has got a bunch of skills that give her healing when she heals someone else. So this should heal both of them. Yep. And we should be able to keep. In fact, we can go straight for the Swift Stride.
Ready to strike.
And we need to remember here, doing a regular attack will keep us in.
Time to end
Well,
this.
let us do another ability. So we'll do that. Right. We'll do this. Get in with our big ability. Boom. There we go.
Let's try it.
And there. Yeah, that one, that attack there, that's one of those BS abilities. There were definitely like a few little, he twitches a bit while he's doing it, and the noise and the sound cues aren't quite in tune with it. Or there's several. The problem is as well is if you do press the parry or dodge buttons, it puts you in an animation where you're playing those while it's still then he's still doing his attack. So even if you press it a second time and it's on time this time, it doesn't matter. You're in the animation, you're locked in, you're gonna get hit. So you do have that problem. We'll hit him with the gradient attack here. Nice big special damage, special hit while we're in virtual stance.
You can't escape. Let's spill some ink.
And we'll get back into virtual stance here.
Bring it on.
No, hang on, wait for it.
Forward.
Oh, yeah, this is the one where it doesn't do anything, isn't it? Right. We haven't got quite enough action points to use our revive skill here, so we will instead use a revive item.
I'm better.
Let's carve a path.
Right. I'm wondering why I didn't gain any action points from hitting him then. It's unusual, but whatever. I guess we'll use a healing item on our healer, who's looking a bit worse for wear.
Take cover.
We managed to block one of those, well, parry one of those. But yeah, I think I've kind of got everything across now with the combat. We'll finish this boss fight up, and then there's just a few other things I want to just kind of go over here before we call it for this. Get back into virtual stance here. Right.
Just try it.
Ready to go.
And then there's that last one. Ugh.
A storm is coming.
Well, I screwed that up. Right. This time we'll just use a ability to do that.
Let's finish this.
And the thing is as well is I was definitely pressing the parry there. I think I've had so many times in this game where I could have sworn that I've pressed the button and it's ignored me. Again, I suspect that I must be like milliseconds out, like it's very fine, the window for it, and it differs on enemy to enemy and attack to attack. I think that attack specifically is very difficult to parry, and I should probably just dodge. But yeah, it's rough, and if you just miss one or two attacks, like your entire party are dead, like especially against bosses. And again, this is beyond end game. I am at the point where I should at least be able to just curb stomp this thing. So there's definitely this weird mishmatch of difficulty in the game. I think it's been designed that certain things are there to be done after the end of the game.
Let's go again.
There's like some extra stuff.
No margin for error.
Right. We don't have the skill points to be able to just straight up revive her, so we'll use a item. And maybe we'll actually get an attack in at some point here. What can we do with his gradient attack? He hits all enemies and marks them, so he's better against groups with his special attack. So we probably just want to keep using some basic abilities here. We're managing to hold on, but we'll see how we go. I wouldn't hit the second one. Bit too early. He fainted. And he did again there.
Bring it on.
Okay. We got some dodges in. We've we're probably screwed at this point. We'll try revive, but I don't think we're going to manage to keep going with this for much longer. We'll just start throwing whatever abilities are strongest at him, in the hopes that we actually manage to do something here.
Bring it on.
We'll try a gradient attack. Should do a lot. Or not that much, I guess. Hey! We get a good counter in.
My turn.
And we can revive another person. We're still holding on. Ooh, perfect then. So as you can see now it's doing like 17 and odd thou compared to like the 6 thou we're doing per hit. And we end up doing 100 and nearly 200,000 damage. We did lose someone there, but we did get the counter in. I'm starting to get used to some of his attacks, he says, as one of his party members dies.
Maximum damage. Didn't really need it. I would have lived.
And I guess we'll just have to revive someone else.
I won't lose again.
We're back in the fight again.
Let's finish this.
But yeah, we might actually be able to do this. You know what we could do? What if, right, we set people on fire with her, so what we could just do is use all of her ability points to just set him on fire. Like in a horrendous way. Then we'll do a gradient attack, because why not? As you can see, that's only doing like just shy of 2k per hit now, when it was virtuous and we got the perfect. Actually it wasn't on that ability, but we were doing a lot more though, is the point. Yeah, more. But now we can use this Mezzo Forte. Reapplies current stance and gives some action points, so she's going to take a second to just boost her action points back up for a turn. 3-hit combo come in. We missed the first hit. We got the second. And we got the third. We do at least get some action points for parrying, but we aren't getting the counter attack from that though. Which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We'll take our 3 attacks. And then we're going to hit him with our big ability. We're going to lose some people here.
I'm ready.
I got 1 parry and all that. And then he fakes it. At the end, he fakes being done. Oh, 7-hit combo. Just dodge. Just dodge. Yeah, good luck trying to parry that. Okay. Oh, yeah. We're exhausted, aren't we? Currently. I think we were last turn. I think it's worn off now because we've got a second turn, but that stops us from gaining action points, so we didn't gain any action points from his attack, and this guy's spec'd out. Basically, if it pokes someone, he gets all of his action points back. So can't really do a whole lot. I could revive someone. Yeah, I'm really running out of revives here. I think I might actually win this though. Looking at how things are going,
Brilliant light.
right. Sometimes the enemies have these like weak spots you can shoot. I don't think that is one, but sometimes you can do extra damage if you hit them. We probably applied enough burn there for now. We could hit him with burning canvas. That'll do a lot of burn. And a lot of damage.
Careful, Verso.
One more. Hey! Could that be it? That did not do anywhere near as much as I thought it would. Right. Last big hit. Hopefully.
Carve a path.
Okay, not quite the last big hit I was hoping for, but this might be.
Two stars.
He dies to burning. There we go. Battle loot. Cheetah level 24. Always play twice in a row. Which is probably why we don't get that till the very end. And we get a billion million XP.
That
Well,
was one of her
880
first
pounds.
creations.
Right.
Here I come.
So that kind of gives you an idea of like how combat can be at the high end of things, where they're just doing like loads of feints, attack flurries, really hitting you with everything, and it's very, again, the combat definitely falls into three categories with the hits. There's either the ones that are nice and easy, there's some that are a bit difficult, there might be a feint thrown in there, there might be several attacks in a row, that sort of thing. I'd say that about a third of the attacks in the game are like this, and a third of them are quite easy, and about a third of them are then obviously exceptionally difficult to avoid and things like that. And because of the sheer amount of damage that's done, I'll just give you a I'll give you a look at some of my characters here. So we've got Loon here, where she has now got 99 vitality. Her weapon specs into vitality as well, so weapons that spec into vitality are really good. Looks pretty good as well, I find. And you can get weapons that spec into these, and that means that you don't hit too mildly. Like she hits fairly hard, but I've maxed out vitality on her, and then since her weapon scales into luck as well, I've boosted up luck. Verso here, he's massively spec'd into vitality, because vitality is really good of a stat, and it's also what his weapon does damage more with. He also has defense. I think of all the stats, defense definitely feels like the ugly duckling amongst them. You know, it's so if you have higher vitality, you can take more hits, given how much damage the enemies do. And a stat into vitality actually gives you, like, I think it's like 20 or so health each time you pick it. It's actually a decent amount. But when you... So, it's kind of like that. It's pretty good. But other stats, like I said, they're not all made equal. Luck very, very mildly increases your crit chance. Might mildly increases your attack. Agility is what allows you to go first, and if you've got it high enough compared to enemies, you can go multiple times. Defense negates damage by, I think it's the same amount of defense that you have. So I think if you've got like 500 defense, you take 500 damage less. But which sounds pretty good in theory, but in practice, as you saw there, now we're getting hit for multiple thousands. I don't know if it's a 1-for-1. I think that it is, but someone would probably have to science that out. It's not exactly, just as it's not exactly clear how much might translates into like how much damage you deal. So it's one of those games where it's like, yeah, you've got these stats, but exactly like the exact numbers as to what they do, you'd probably have to look up a guide for it. And I will just kind of, before I finish on all this, I just want to point out as well that one of the gripes I've had with this, and it's probably better if we maybe set camp somewhere on the map here, just so we can look at stats properly. So we'll just finish at the camp. Right, so here we are at the camp, and I'm just going to finish with basically a look at like the leveling system and sort of like organising things. So there are skills and attributes and things in the game. So for example here, so Luna here's got 30 skills, but as you saw, we only get 6 skills that we can take into combat. I could by all means unlock most of these skills. I could unlock most of them. I could probably get to a point where there's only a handful left for me to handful of them left for me to unlock and that, but I just don't have the ability to actually use them. Even if I bought all of these, it wouldn't make a difference. And you do this at the start. You beeline the skills that you actually want, and then you get that playstyle, kind of you build around it, and then you never touch it again, because it's like, well, I can unlock these skills, but I can't do anything with them, and I've built my character around the skills I've got now, and so it's all kind of it's a bit pointless having all the excess. And this is the same for every single skill tree here. Monaco's a bit different. He's quite interesting. He gains new skills by defeating enemies that have those skills. It explains it in game, and you'll see that if you end up fighting with him. Well, if you end up buying the game and you fight using him, you'll find out. Very much, again, like Dark Souls-esque, we can rest at these camps and refill all of our health and all of our flasks. Yes, you have flasks, and you can literally, again, just like use a chroma elixir down there, and that refills all party health while you're in game. It's weirdly like party management Dark Souls with turn-based combat. Like there's just, it's only the health system, but the health system is definitely just straight up borrowed from Dark Souls here. The attributes, as I mentioned, so we've gone through that. We can put points in things, and might as well keep scaling into the things that I've been scaling into, I guess. And you end up with, oh, we've got 6 points to spend here. I can kind of like mix and matching agility and luck with my L, as well as a bit of vitality. Actually, yeah, just put L into agility. We'll see if we can get to the next multiple of 10 maybe on that, and might as well try to finish vitality up here. But some are definitely better than others with the skills. I think defense is probably the worst that I've seen. And so I stopped I stopped really going into it. And there's not many weapons that scale into it either. And I will say there is another way which you can assign like skills and attributes and things, and you'll have probably kind of figured, is there some kind of equipment system? There is. You have weapons, which you can level up at camp by spending resources on them. Again, the weapon system with its scaling and then using resources to upgrade them, straight up from Dark Souls. And so that gives you, so for example, that determines your attack power and what abilities, what stats scale into that attack power. So vitality and defense will scale into this sword, for example. And as you can see, the player again has to base attack. We saw him doing that in the fight. The pictos here. Now this is where it gets weird. The pictos, you can equip these. A picto, whatever a picto is, but it's one of these. It has an ability. So this top one is anti-burn. The ability is immunity to burning. So the burning status effect cannot be applied to you. It also has some stats. Health and defense, and as you use these pictos, so you can see all the pictos on the left side there, or at least a lot of them, have little yellow outlines around them. The ones with a grey outline, like this cheetah that we got, so I could equip cheetah and it has a grey outline. Each fight that I win while I have cheetah equipped, which is always plays twice in a row. So cheetah, each quarter, like each side of that diamond will fill in yellow until all four have. So after 4 fights that I've won and survived with this character in my party, after doing that 4 times, I will unlock the cheetah picto. What that does is, well, it learns it is how I phrase it in the game, but what it means is I can now apply that to any character. Little asterisk next to that. Because these are all pictos over here, so there's your skills in the middle, but then we have luminas over here. And you can equip luminas, and they each cost certain points. You can get these points when you level up, you get 1 for every level, and you can also use items to apply extra ones. So you can, by all means, you could put all your luminas on a single character if you wanted, and have one character with basically every possible ability if you wanted. You know, if you just really, really wanted to, you could. And they cost varying amounts depending on how good they are. Some are really good, others are so-so, but they all cost an associated amount. So for example, attack lifesteal, recover 15% health on base attack, costs 15 points to equip because it's quite a good ability, right? Whereas if we go down here, combo attack, base attack has 1 extra hit, so when you hit someone with a base attack, you'll hit them twice. That costs 10 because obviously that's a very powerful ability. Other things like dodger, gain 1 action point if you do a perfect dodge, up to once per turn. That only costs 1 to put on that. Absolutely no problem. And so you can get all these different abilities. There are absolutely loads of them. And the difference is, though, that the luminas are just the abilities of the pictos. They don't apply the stats. So if I were to, example, equip the anti-burn here as a lumina instead of a picto, only the immune to burn would be equipped. I wouldn't get the health and defense. It's a bit... The equipment system, because there's only these components to it, is quite simple. Yet simultaneously, because of, you know, it's like, okay, well, you've got pictos that you then learn that become luminas, but they're... even in trying to explain this, I can kind of hear myself, and it's like, yeah, this actually sounds rather complex. And I think the problem is that the equipment system probably calls for something more complex. It probably calls for a more complicated solution than this. each character should probably have like, you know, armor or something, and that should be how you get the extra like the extra attribute points, like the health and defense and agility and stuff that you get from the Pictos should probably be associated with some sort of like armor pieces. And then you should just have these luminas. Probably. I tend to think that. The other problem as well then is obviously then you have to manage like equipping them, unequipping them, putting new ones on so you can learn them to put on your other characters to craft a build, managing who you're spending the points on for the luminas so that they've got enough points to equip the exact things that you need. Do you put on a Picto that's quite costly to equip if you wanted the ability but maybe doesn't have the stats that you want, and obviously this is all starting to sound very, very complicated, and it is. And I think that's the problem. Like I say, I think it needs to be separated out more. There can't just be Pictos, Luminas, skills. I think you need armor sets probably, and to separate all these stats out into those and making it a bit more manageable. It also doesn't help that since there's only like these one things that you equip, it just creates this giant list. You can kind of filter it a bit and change the sorting on it at least there. So like there's all offensive, defensive. It's sorted by alphabetical now, but we can go with point costs, whether they're active or not. We can have favorites, but it would probably just make more sense to be like, choose what helmet you want, what gauntlets you want, what, you know, chest piece you want. You know, it's fine. It's like, yeah, that would probably make more sense. And it creates these weird anti-synergy type situations where you want to equip a Lumina that, well, you want to equip a Picto that would cost an absolute bomb to put on as a Lumina, so that it frees up those Lumina points, but then it might have crap stats on it. And the other thing as well is you've probably noticed like the weapon has a level and the Pictos have a level. When you find a duplicate item, it levels the item up. And there are Pictos in the game that are duplicated, like there's multiple instances of them throughout the levels. The problem is that that's not true for all of them. So, and the level affects the stats. So you might find one with a really good ability that would cost a lot to equip as a Lumina, but if you were to equip it as a Picto, just would not give you those stats, and you get, I would say, at least half, if not maybe even 2/3 of your stats come straight up from your Pictos and your weapon. And so it creates this very unusual equipment system that I don't think works very well in the game. It means that you've got really good like passive abilities here in the Luminas that you can do lots with, but again, I think this could be more streamlined and refined, and it also really puts you off managing them and sorting everything out. I would typically get everything sorted and do at least 2, sometimes 3 areas on the map before I look at this again, because I know that going back to this is going to take me like half an hour to sort out if I suddenly decide, right, I'm gonna redo all my stuff again. And so I think we've gone through like all my gripes there with everything in the game, but again, it's not bad. And I'll just kind of put us over here while I just talk over here and just kind of wrap this up for you. Get a nice backdrop for us. So, to kind of tie everything up with a bow here. So, the way that I would say, and I've not pronounced that, there we go. The way that I would say is that yes, the visuals are fantastic. It's in this just crazy, like crafted, surreal world made of like paint and art and stuff like that. Absolutely fantastic. The story is brilliant with brilliant plot twists. The combat, now again, the combat is the weakest element here. It is very much the definition of a polished turd. Turn-based combat is and always will be, at least in this way where it's everyone just in a line taking turns, it's very, very outdated. And all that the active parry system did was make it so now I can't watch a podcast while I'm playing it. That's all it did. And it's not just that, it's that there's like, oh, there's a parry, there's a jump, there's another type of parry, and then you've got the, you know, oh, it's and then there's the dodge, and it feels like they're just tacking on extra systems and making it more complicated and annoying, just to try and kind of, again, it's like, okay, we understand that the combat is a turd, but if we really polish it up and add some gems onto it, you know, maybe it won't be as bad. It's like, nah, the core problem is still there. Like, just that type of combat is not good. There's a reason Final Fantasy finally gave in and moved to real-time action combat. There's a reason, and that reason is very evident when you play this. But that's not to say that it's bad, right? They've done all of that stuff does have some effect, and combined with the story, it's absolutely worthwhile playing, right? It makes it far more reasonable. Right? The combat, it does go from being just a turd to a polished turd, but it goes from basically being like, oh my god, I will literally not play this game purely because of the type of combat being used, to I can put up with this to play the actual game. And it also helps with, as I've been mentioning there, the build craft and stuff you can do, where you can create some really crazy combos. That also helps you keep interested in it. It is very satisfying when you just, like, there's a bunch of various skills that work when you're like solo. So if everyone else on the team is dead, and I think, which character is it now? The name, I think it's CL, her name. Yeah, CL. Her in the brightly coloured dress over there, but CL here for me is completely specced out with all the like solo skill stuff, and Monaco, the other guy, is specced out with all the things that will give his allies a buff when he dies. And so if I lose my entire party, you can actually send in the extra characters as a reserve team. So CL and Monaco suddenly appear. Monaco just self-sacrifices and martyrs himself on the enemy, and then CL gets buffed up so much that she can basically, provided she gets all of her things set up, she can just one-tap bosses. And that's another thing as well, like each character has their own unique combat gimmick and mechanic. Some of them work really well. I don't think Monaco's is very good. I don't particularly this guy, Verso, it's there, but I don't really engage with his bonus thing. So some of them have more impact than others, and it varies on what kind of build and what skills you're using. But with me, I'd set this guy up as just an auto attacker. He'll use his attack ability. It gives him like bonus turns, and he attacks multiple times, afflicting various status ailments on them when he does. Things like that. I'm probably going to put that cheater on him when I eventually get enough points so that it can attack, you know, multiple times over and over, and get like 4 or 5 attacks on an enemy before he lets them have a turn. Just make him a greedy sod. And I've mentioned again, so there's all that about the danger areas and having to backtrack, and then sometimes you backtrack and you still can't do the area, and then you don't know what to do. But all that said, it's still, again, just a fantastic game with the story, and that the combat, it makes up for it, that there's all the stuff kind of tacked onto it, and the build crafting stuff is really what helps. But I would say the equipment could be more streamlined. Just have more slots for things rather than trying to do everything with just Pictos and Luminas. I would probably, even if it means, like, I don't know, they all have like 5 magical rings or whatever on them, however it needs to be themed for the game. But the really truly amazing thing about all this is that it cost like just shy of 40 quid, right? This is a cheap game considering how good it looks and how well it plays. And on top of all of that, you then have the fact that it's also available on Game Pass, and even then it's been getting like top seller rankings on Steam. So loads of people even outside of Game Pass are buying this. It's really doing the numbers as it rightly ought to. And everything said, I think that the big thing here, because what's really surprising is, so this was done using a lot of outsourcing to various like modeling studios, like 3D modeling studios and other developers and things. And as a result was basically the price was kept all the way down. A core team of around 30, mostly comprising of ex-Ubisoft developers, basically put this thing together. And essentially, it's I think it's a big lesson for companies like Ubisoft that yes, you can make a game with like 30 odd guys and then just loads of support staff that have been third-partied out and things and outsourced and that, rather than having, you know, hundreds of people in-house go at it. And you can create something of a AAA standard that doesn't cost as much as a AAA game. Because I would put this out there that Expedition 33 is probably going to, when it comes to all the awards and the sales figures this year, I bet it probably blows Assassin's Creed Shadows out of the water, or at the very least competes with it. And it probably does it on a much smaller budget with a fraction of the number of people. And that is shocking in both a good and terrible way, depending on what side of the aisle you're on when it comes to the games industry. If you're one of the people in charge of these big bloated companies right now, that's probably terrifying to hear. But for the little indies, this is fantastic. And keep in mind, this is their first project as an indie team, so possibly really big expectations of things to come here. But yeah, this is Expedition 33. A game that basically goes above and beyond by quite a margin its 30-man team and its small budget. It somehow delivers something that you'd probably expect to pay something closer to 60 quid for. And yet, here we are. It would not surprise me if this is contender for a few game awards this year. Possibly even the soundtrack award, because it has some great music too. Anyway, more like this on the channel, other reviews and bits of gameplay available. Thank you very much for watching this though, and I hope to see you in future videos. I'll see you then.